Humans by nature, he was a doctor who saved lives and was assigned to a place where there was a war, and he couldn't really imagine that a war would break out in the place he went to volunteer. It was a civil war and he was rescuing one another to save their lives. He was saying that there was no more space to lay patients down. Despite the situation, he still gives his all as a doctor. He was asking if they have any more hemostatic, because the one he just gave to the guy was the last one. He was a doctor. And because he was a doctor, he simply did what he could. He was being shot many times and he died instantly. He sacrifices his own self to rescue the child. And he is Dr. Jean, the protagonist of our story. He feels the pain that was overwhelming, and feels like he had been beaten all over and he was falling. And he was asking his own self if it was death. While he was lying, he was asking where he was and he was shocked when he saw his hand, which was a hand of a kid. He stood up and was still asking where he was and why he was a child. Then he saw that there was a horse carriage and people that were dead. He was sure that it was not a dream, and it's not a movie set either. The stench of the blood was far too strong for it to be fake. He was thinking that it was the corpse of a real person. That was cut in half with a single strike. And it was a sharp wound and was asking to his mind what kind of sword slices a person in half. He was looking at the clothes of the guy and said that it was strange clothing. And he was thinking that he had fallen into some murim world. He was thinking that it was probably because of how absurd the scenario was, but he was able to think straight. And it was definitely neither the desert where he died, nor North Korea. And to top it off, he had possessed the body of a young child. He saw that all 3 wagons were completely empty. He was asking if those people were ambushed by rogues or bandits or something. And guessing that the body of the man hasn't gone into rigor mortis yet. And it means that it hasn't been 2 hours since his time of death. He needed to be focused, he had to get out of there before the bandits came back. And suddenly someone was calling for help, then he saw the man that was reaching for something and said to give the thing to his wife. And he asked the man if it was okay. The man answered that he was okay even if he was dying, but his wife was still alive. He was trying to stop the bleeding of the man. He was thinking in his mind that the man was still lucky. Despite the wound being so long, the man hasn't suffered any internal damage. The man had lost a lot of blood and he needed something to bandage him with. He infused the bag of the man and he was looking for something that he can use. Then he saw some needles and he used them as a thread. And guessing that sanitation won't be possible. He told the man that it would hurt, but he had to withstand it. The man was shouting for the pain he felt. After the pain it was all done and Jean told him that he did great. The man says thank you to him. Jean told the man that there was nothing more he could do. He wasn't able to care for hygiene, so he could get an infection. Though he doesn't believe in the heavens, he believes in the will of a husband who's got a pregnant wife waiting at home, and gives the pouch to the guy and tells it to live for his family. He feels so tired and said that it was tough in his last life, and he was a fully grown adult. And was guessing that there may be more people alive. So he stood up and found some people that were still alive. He was thinking that there weren't many, but some were still breathing. And he can provide emergency first aid. But after it, without additional help. And he will think about it later. For now, he will focus on saving them. And saying in his mind that he needs to give his all to save them. Because he was a doctor. He was running to find some people to help with. Then he saw a woman. He was upset because the woman had lost so much blood and he couldn't save him. He was panting and thinking that the basics of emergency care were determining those who can be saved and those who cannot. He was crying helping those barely 3 people. He can barely manage to save 3 people. He was so sad and was so disappointed in himself. And saying that if only he had some proper medical equipment. Then he suddenly saw something under the body of the man. He saw the flag that was marked with a loud dragon secure delivery. A secure delivery was a group who will transport anything for the right price. But such delivery groups only appear in murim novels. And thinking that if it was really a murim world and those people were from a secure delivery group and guessing that a rescue team may have arrived. He gets the sword and makes a fire and guesses that the stuff he learned in the army could be useful after all. But it will really be too much work for such a small body. He built a tent for the people he rescued to rest comfortably. He was so tired so he lay on the ground and asked if the rescue team would really come and guessed that maybe it would be better for him to go down the mountain alone, before it would get dangerous. He looked at those people he helped and he cannot leave them be and guessed that he really was a doctor after all. His reason for becoming a doctor was that he could earn a lot of money. It was a medal of honor for him, an orphan. A proof of success, after devoting his entire life and overcoming countless hardships. But he caught up in a civil war because of some volunteer work, and got shot and died to protect some kid. Then he suddenly heard something and he was asking if it could be wolves. He was thinking that it was not impossible and it was a murim world. If there were bandits, there could be wolves too. Because he was so frightened, he suddenly shouted for help from the Cloud Dragon Secure Delivery. He suddenly stopped and remembered something about the Cloud Dragon Secure Delivery, and it sounds familiar to him, and he was shocked because it was from a Supreme Demon King. He heard a horse that was coming and he was asking what was going on. Then he saw the flag and it was the Cloud Dragon Secure Delivery. He was laughing because he was so happy. A rescue team really came and they were saved. Both himself and the patients. He was so amazed with the wagons that were really unique. Thinking that it looked like a giant medicine cabinet, he felt like he had been reading about it somewhere. Then he remembered that it was the godly Dr. Baekrin's medical wagon he read in a book in his past life. He said that there was no way, and guessed that it might be a coincidence. This man told the guy to check for more survivors. Then he saw Jean. Jean felt the man was so massive. The guy said to him that he was the Lord of Cloud Dragon Secure Delivery, YEOHARYUN, and asked what his name was. He answered that he was Jean Cheonhee. Jean was saying in his mind that Wunyu was pretty kind, despite his looks. Wunyu said to him that his name was so cool and it was amazing for him to be so calm, under the circumstances. Wunyu asked if he built the tent. Jean replied that he did and he had to attend to the injured. Then Wunyu checked the tent and he was shocked because he saw some people that were rescued and needed some help. And so he shouted that there were intensive care patients and wanted to get the godly doctor quickly. Jean was shocked and was asking himself if Wunyu really did just say godly doctor. According to the novel, the White Dragon Godly Doctor was one of the 3 heavenly doctors. He earned his nickname Baekrin, meaning White Dragon, because of his hair, which resembles the scales of a white dragon, and because despite being male, he is a beauty to everyone. Jean Cheon was so amazed and said in his mind that just as he read in the novel, that isn't just a murim world, and it was the one in the novel. He recalls that the novel of Supreme Demon King was a novel he just finished reading, not long before he died. And in Supreme Demon King, the White Dragon Godly Doctor was an important character. When Cloud Dragon Secure Delivery was attacked, White Dragon Godly Doctor was the one who saved the main character of the story, YEOHARYUN. A lot of things happen between him and YEOHARYUN after it, but ultimately he dies from a disease, around the 2nd book of the series. And that character was before him now. Godly Dr. Baekrin saw those stitches, then healed the patients using his magic. Wunyu was asking about the leaders and Mr. Gong's son conditions. Godly Dr. Baekrin told him that he would like to ask something instead. And he asked who was responsible for treating those wounds. Then suddenly Jean Cheon answered that it was him who did it. The godly doctor was so impressed with his suture, and said thank you to him for the proper treatment that those people could live with. The people around him were chatting that the White Dragon Godly Doctor complimented him and asking who he was. The godly doctor told him that he was amazing to have treated such a lethal wound so calmly. And Jean Cheon said that he simply wanted to save those people. The godly doctor smiled at him and said that people think that way is rare in Gangho. Wunyu told Jean Cheon that he will leave half of their forces there on standby, and leave them in his care. Before Wunyu left, it told him that he promised to repay those debts to him one day. In the place of the godly Dr. Baekrin, the guy was saying to his master that he had overexerted himself. And there was no need for him to come along, especially all the way out there. The godly doctor answered that he had no choice. The Cloud Dragon Secure Delivery took him in and hid him in his time of need. And now that he had saved one of their brothers, he had paid back his debt. The young man was asking him if he was talking about the one they call Leader Woon. Godly Dr. Baekrin said that it was right. Although the other's death was also unfortunate, it was hard to compare anything to the death of a family member. The young man told him that now he had paid back the favor to the Cloud Dragon Secure Delivery. The godly doctor said that if they keep track of who owes who, that was true. The young man said to him that he really strained his own self. He knew that it isn't easy to control the 9 clouded absolute pulses. The godly doctor said that he knew and asked what choice he had. Told the young man that his time was short. It was a wonder how he had made it past 40. And he should have died a long time ago. He told the young man that he wanted to take a disciple right away. He knew that the young man was worried his time alive would shorten even further and wanted the kid Jean Cheon. Jean Cheon was sleeping and he was familiar with the smell of herbs. He said in his mind that he would have smelled it often as a child, when he would go to the market. When he opened his eyes and tried to stood up but he cannot because he was hurt. He saw some windows opened and an empty bed by his side. Then suddenly he was shocked. The godly doctor pleaded with him to rest. Everyone was staring at him too hard, and he saw the child he treated and wondered where the other 2 went. He tried to ask where the 2 were but the godly doctor said to him that it was one of the bases of the Cloud Dragon Secure Delivery Service. And that he slept through the entire trip on the way there. Jean Cheon was so amazed and he was looking at the godly doctor from up close, and said in his mind that the godly doctor really looks like a celebrity. and guessing that to use honorifics while speaking to a child like him and thinking that the godly doctor was well educated. The godly doctor told him that if it weren't for his quick response and first aid treatment, everyone would have died. And though he finished treating them, it would not be an exaggeration to say he saved those patients' lives. And said additionally that there won't be any significant side effects, and both the Cloud Dragon Secure Delivery Service and the Noble Tribe were indebted to him. He was asking about a noble tribe, and the godly doctor asked him if he remembered among the people he saved, a lady with a sword strapped to her waist. And Jin Cheon answered that he did. It was the daughter of the noble tribe, and had been working for the Cloud Dragon Secure Delivery Service to train herself. He said into his mind that the noble tribe, they were a clan who appears later in the novel. And asking was she a daughter of one of the heads of the noble tribe. And in either way, he simply treated a person who needed to be saved. He said that it was just nothing to him and tried to stand up, and the young man actively caught him and told him that he must be careful for now. The thing that came into his mind that the young man helped him to stand up was General Yu Ho, who was said to serve the White Dragon godly doctor, and those string-eyed characters aren't common, after all. He said to everyone that he simply helped as much as he could, given his rough skills and limited knowledge. And said additionally that it was a relief to hear that he was able to be of some use. And suddenly the godly doctor told him to take the internal medicine. And the noble tribe had sent it for him, in order to express their gratitude. Everyone was shocked because it was a 100-year pine medicine ball. By chopping down a pine tree that has been grown in a special location, and using the sap from its roots to make a medicine ball. That medicine ball was said to contain the life force of a 100-year pine tree. He was thinking that it must be something amazing, to have everyone so surprised and asking just what was the thing. The godly doctor was saying in his mind that everyone was surprised to see that the noble tribe had sent it. If it had not been for the child, the noble tribe's promising prospect, Black Dragon Gone Sun Yang, would have lost her life. And said additionally that the noble tribe doesn't seem to believe that the child saved the heir of the Gong Sun tribe, but rather, seems to have sent the medicine ball out of respect for him. Considering her position within the noble tribe, even a gift of that magnitude could be considered small. The others don't seem to understand the gravity of the situation. He was exasperated in order to say that his head was hurt. I can't tell what's going on. He didn't even know what the medicine was. The godly doctor told him that the medicine was good for internal wounds, it would also help with the headache. And his body was quite strained, from overexerting himself while he was hurt. And said additionally that it was best to take it as soon as possible. He was asking himself if it was good for internal wounds and if it was something like an elixir. And he will take it for now because a patient should listen to his doctor. And so he took the medicine, and a refreshing scent was enveloping in his throat. His head was spinning a little too. The general gave him a drink and told him that it will help him go to sleep. The godly doctor asked everyone to leave, the patients to rest. Everyone leaves and someone is saying that he exceeded his expectations and it was embarrassing for him to remember his own son at home. The general was asking the godly doctor if he really planned on taking Jin Cheon as his disciple, and the godly doctor answered that he was. The general said that he was sure nobody would refuse to become the disciple of the great white dragon godly doctor, but he was worried. The godly doctor said that he was worried as well and that Jin Cheon will refuse it. Perhaps some hard work will help him move his heart. The general asked him if he was going to do such a precious thing for him. Godly Dr. Baekrin gets a needle and points the needle on Jin Cheon's forehead. General said into his mind that he doesn't know whether he should pity him or envy him. And since his master has chosen him, he will have no hope of living an easy life. Jin Cheon dreamed that he was a butterfly. Not like Zhuangzi's butterfly dream. He dreams that he was captured by a lunatic and skewered with needles. And he was so scared and was asking for help and wanted to save him. When he opened his eyes he saw the same ceiling he saw earlier, before he fell asleep. He was asking about a very unpleasant smell, that smells like something's rotting. And it was an indescribable vulgar stench, and suddenly he was shocked, because he was totally naked. The godly doctor came and Jin Cheon was really shocked and a little bit shy. He was asking himself if the white dragon godly doctor had been nursing him all night. Because usually, such simple nursing jobs are given to servants. Godly doctor said that surprisingly, his body had not accumulated much of the muddy QI. Jin was guessing that there was something sticky on his back, and it didn't feel like a liquid, but rather some dried up chunk of rubber. The godly doctor told him that he was looking alright as well. And asked him if he felt any discomfort anywhere. Jin was guessing that it seems it was the cause of the rancid smell. And he answered to the doctor that his body feels incredibly light, rather. And pleaded the godly doctor to speak casually to him. And said additionally that it was embarrassing to hear him use honorifics to address him. And the godly doctor said that in this case, he will talk to him casually. While the godly doctor was cleaning his back, he suddenly asked what he meant, muddy QI, and said that he thought he was being treated for internal wounds. The godly doctor replies that while he was at it, he performed a bone restructuring procedure. And it was the least they should do to prepare for the martial arts he will be learning. A bone restructuring procedure was a classic in murim novels. A high-level process of cleansing the body of any, and all, toxins and impurities using a combination of QI and medical procedures. He was so amazed and asked in his mind if the blood vessels had been cleaned out. The godly doctor told him that he needed to clean out now and called the general to help. Was looking at the doctor thinking that it was a bone restructuring procedure done by none other than the white dragon godly doctor, and guessing that it will be different from the ones done by normal doctors. And he was asking why do such a thing for him. He was taking a bath now and saying in his mind that the great bath of the Cloud Dragon Secure Delivery Service. Their base was quite luxurious, fitting for such a powerful group. When he was told by the White Dragon Godly Doctor that he was the savior of the group, they provided their best facilities for him. He still said that his head was aching from time to time. It was because when they asked about where he lives, who his parents are, whether he had been affiliated with a group. And he had no choice but to blame his headache every time. There was already a wound in his head, so it will probably be best he chalk it up to memory loss. The general left him and told him to call when he was out. He said that the servant guy was pretty stubborn. And guessing that it was understandable some random kid just crawled in out of nowhere and received a bone restructuring procedure from the White Dragon Godly Doctor. He was looking at his reflection, seeing a child, that was the body of a child. He died in his past life because he saved someone. But now, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that because he saved someone, he had been able to live. If it had been a band of rogues, or wolves, that found him, instead of the Cloud Dragon Secure Delivery Service, he would have died. Events from his past life were popping into his head, one by one. It was a life without family, relatives, or loved ones. It was a miserable life for him, but it was a life tried his hardest to live. And now he was asking how he should live. According to Yuho, anyone who might know about the body has been killed by bandits. And that they were headed to Seoju. And that's where the demon forces were based. It was mentioned many times in the book that the main character, Demon King Yeoharyu, joins the demon forces through Seoju. There, she overcomes several hardships and challenges to develop and grow. He was a nameless extra, who gets shot in the head and dies, in the first page of the book. Furthermore, he was an orphan, with nothing to his name. He had always worked for others, and their families. Perhaps now that he had done that, he finally deserved to have a family of his own. In order to do it, he needs to have money. And since he was in the murim world, where human lives are no different from those of flies, he'll have to increase his strength too. There is no doubt that he will get caught in countless upcoming calamities. And if he cannot even protect himself, he will have no right to protect anyone else. While he was looking in the mirror, he had neither wealth nor strength. He had knowledge of what the future holds. And not only that, doctors were always needed, no matter where they were. He changed his clothes to a newer one and the general was asking if it was the same kid as before. He told Jin Cheon that he looked refreshed. And a warm tea has been prepared in the tea room and wanted to follow him along. The general was saying in his mind that Jin Cheon has no inner IQ, and his martial arts abilities were worse than those of children in the murim clans. His master had said that Jin Cheon's skills were more sufficient, but he was far from it, in his eyes. And thinking if Jin Cheon was really to become his disciple and his master's already short lifespan will be even further limited. Jin Cheon was saying in his mind that to be so openly wary of him, it reminds him of his days as an intern. And there must be a reason he was being watched. Now that he thinks about it, the White Dragon Godly Doctor never performed a bone restructuring procedure for anyone in the novel. And was asking if it could be because of it. And it would make sense for him. According to the novel, a bone restructuring procedure consumes an immense amount of inner QI. If he had truly received a bone restructuring procedure, things were looking extremely bad for the White Dragon Godly Doctor. And it is said to be suppressing his illness with his inner QI. Him doing things like it were what caused him to die in the beginning of the first book. He said that to sacrifice oneself for another was not an easy thing to do. He remembers all the contents of the novel. And he possesses the knowledge of modern medicine. And he wondered if there was any way to treat him. But first he had to solve the problem with the refreshments. While he was eating and he said that a QI dispersing poison biscuits was a smart move on the demon clan's end. And he was thinking that they plan a spy and get the members of the Cloud Dragon Secure Delivery Service addicted, then come to attack and kill them all. And he won't let that happen. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe for more videos.